Hello everybody, welcome to the Chapter 7 study video. This is part 1 of 3 parts. In this video, I will specifically be covering how to solve for 3 variables. So, I think that the 3 points that I have listed are the 3 things you want to understand when you're trying to do this. So the first one, what are you doing? So when I put those numbers and those letters and all of that in front of you, what are you actually trying to do? So we know that eventually we want to be able to solve for x, y, and z, or maybe it might be a, b, and c. So we're trying to find the value of those unknowns. Another thing that's really important is that you are really organized in how you're writing this. So with problems like this, there's a lot of work involved, and there tends to be really simple math errors that totally throw off all of your answers. When you get that scary decimal and you want to go back and check your work, it would be really nice if you had some stuff that you could look at and understand where it's coming from. And then from my perspective, I want it to be organized, because if you do make a simple math mistake, I want to be able to look at it and go, okay, they know what they're doing the right steps, they just made this error. So be organized, write it out so that I can follow what you're doing, and that way I can give you a higher grade if you do make that mistake. And then, most importantly of all, with all problems like this, you can check your work, plug those values in and see if they make true statements. And of course, that's really only if time allows. These problems can be very complex, can take lots of time, and so if you've got time at the end, it's so important to go back and check your work. Don't just do these and then turn it in. If you've got that time, use it. Use the extra time to check your work. All right. So, what we're interested in doing is just to solve the system. So what are you doing? We need to find out what x, y, and z is so that it makes all 3 statements true. To do this, you'll notice that we have 3 equations with 3 variables. What we want to do is kind of work it down so that we can eventually get one equation with 1 variable, because we know how to solve those. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. For that organizational piece, what I like to do is I like to label my 3 equations so that I can talk about them or refer back to them as I need. So I'd call the first one A. Oops, got an arrow there. Right now, my smartboard does not want me to write. So give me a minute. Let's see if I can make. Oh, now I don't know what I'm doing. One sec. Technical difficulties. All right, so I have not fixed the mistake, but I can go about this where I will be typing everything instead of writing it out. So I hope you guys can follow along. We can still do some solving together, and I apologize if it causes any confusion. But we can still solve this system. So what I was saying is I want to label my equations. I'm going to label them A, B, and C. That way I can kind of refer back to them and solve it like that. So I notice that when I'm doing that, the easiest one it looks like to be canceled out, we might see the z's and think that that would be one way to go about it. Another really easy one is going to be with our y's, because they all have the same coefficient. So this one's a positive 5y, and these both are negative 5y's. So what I'm going to end up doing is I think it would be easiest if I did a plus b. So when I do that, I'm going to add together my negative 4x and my negative 2x. When I add those together, I'll get negative 6x. And then we've got minus 5y plus 5y, so that'll just go away. And then negative z plus 2z, so I'll be left with a plus z is equal to 18 plus 4, 22. Underneath it, I want one more equation, so I combined A and B. The next one I'm going to combine, oh, I meant A and C. Duh. So my next one that I want to combine is going to be B and C. So I'm going to add those 2 together, again, because the coefficients on my 5's are opposite of each other. So they'll just or they're the same coefficient, but their signs are opposite, so they'll just go away. So negative 4x plus negative 2x plus negative 2x, negative 4x. My y's cancel out, and then I am left with, looks like my z's are also going to end up canceling out, so that'll end up being equal to 16. So with this one, it was even nicer. Worked out for us very well. We got that negative 4x is equal to 16. So what I'm going to do is take this one, and I'm going to rewrite it. Solving for x, I know that I can divide both sides by negative 4, and so x will be equal to negative 4. If I plug that in up top, that'll be really nice. So I'll do negative 6 times negative 4 plus z will be equal to 22. So when I do that, then this becomes a positive 24. Oops. So then 24 plus z equals 22. Subtract 22 from both sides, and z will, or 24 from both sides, and z will end up being equal to negative 2. So then all I need to figure out is what y is equal to, so I can take and plug that into any equation I want. Looks like c will be a nice easy one to use. So negative 2 times my x value, which is negative 4, and then plus 5y, so plus 5y plus 2 times my z value of negative 2 will be equal to 4. So this will be positive 8. This will end up being a negative 4. So when we combine these two together, we'll be left with positive 4. So 5y plus 4 is equal to 4. Subtract 4 from both sides. 5y equals 0. So what times 5 will equal 0? Therefore, y equals 0. So with this, I was able to find all of my answers. I know that z equals negative 2, x equals negative 4, and y equals 0. Alright, unfortunately there isn't that nice easy work for you to follow out as a good example of kind of what organized notes look like. But again, hopefully that's becoming a key for you, that you're able to understand. One of the ways I organized is I gave the first equation the title of A, the second one B, and the third one C, and then I was able to clearly see what I did in order to get this new equation here. So that was helpful for me, and it's something that I could go look back at and go, oh, they just made this simple mistake. So one of the ways to organize your work. All right, so that's one example of a problem you will see tomorrow. Another one, the other type, is to find the equation of the parabola that goes through the given points, and then they're listed. So the key here is the word parabola. Got my highlighter still up. What I want you guys to do then is to put it in to the equation y equals a times x squared plus b times x plus c. I'm going to make this squared. Alright, so this is the big one. This is the one you should be writing down, and the one you should know how to use. So somewhere in your notes, you better have this and better know that when I say parabola, this is the equation that I want you to use. Okay, so we're using that equation then to solve. Essentially what we're doing is we're creating a problem that looks just like the one we just did, where we're going to have three systems of equations, and we want to solve for A, B, and C. So when I write this one, I know that I can plug in my 3 points. So my y value is 3, so if we're looking at that first point, 3 is equal to a times 0 squared. I'm just going to leave it like that. Plus b times 0 plus c. And this is squared. Alright. And I'll do something very similar for my next 2 points. Literally need the same equation, and we're just plugging in our x's and our y's. So my next one is 4. And we've got plugging in a -1, plugging in a -1. And in the bottom one, I've got a point of -6. And I'm plugging in my x value. This one's the -1. I need to go back and fix that in my other one. This was the point where x was equal to 1. So this equation is going to come out and be very nice for us. So what we want to do then is to go ahead and rewrite these. I'm going to make arrows showing that I am rewriting them, that this is the same equation, just in a different spot. So, sorry, little OCD. So we know that 3 is equal to, so I'm going to pull out this pen here. And this will cancel out because a times 0 is 0, b times 0 is 0. So those cancel out, and then we get left with 3 is equal to c. So I know that information because my a and my b value went away, and I was left with c is equal to 3. So down here, I'm going to go ahead and plug that in, because that'll make it easier to use for later. So I'm going to say that 4 is equal to 1a. 1 times a is just a, plus 1 times b, just b, plus 3. In my next equation, I have that negative 6 is equal to negative 1 squared is 1, so we're left with a positive a. Negative 1 times b is negative b, again plus 3. So the trick with this one then is we've got two equations with two variables, and we want to get it down to one equation with one variable. These b's, nice enough, will cancel out for us. And when we add them together then, which we can do, we'll be left with negative 2 equals 2a plus 6. So I'm going to take and subtract 6 from both sides. Negative 6, this will become a negative 8. So we know that negative 8 equals 2 times something, therefore a is going to end up being negative 4. Negative 4 equals a. So, here's my highlighter again. I know that c equals 3, a equals negative 4. So the last thing for me to find then will be my b value. I'm going to go ahead and extend the page. So I'm going to take and plug that in to one of my equations. Probably the easiest one if I'm solving for b will be this first one. So I'm literally going to take and copy and paste that equation. And I'm trying to solve for b, and I know that a is negative 4. So if I combine like terms, I'll get that 4 is equal to negative 1 plus b. Add 1 to both sides, you get that 5 is equal to b. Alright. Therefore, my final equation is going to be, if you remember, whoops, we wanted to make sure we were using this. We know that a is negative 4. Trying to write in there. Oh, it's the highlighting. Negative 4. B we just found was, I believe, 5. And C was 3. So then that is my final answer. What we were trying to solve for. Alright. So I have one more problem for you guys, if you're interested. These are the two types of problems you will see for tomorrow, solving the system, and then also writing one for a parabola. Let's do a time check. It's been about 13 minutes. Took me to do those two problems. Might take you guys a little bit longer. If you still need one more practice problem, I've got one more for you where I'm asking you to solve the system. So what I would suggest is you write this one down, try and solve it yourself, and then check your work against mine. So what I'm going to do here is organize myself a little bit, call that A, B, and C. So what I want to do is I want to identify the variable that'll be easiest to use. None of these look too great, but I can work with this y here and manipulate it as I need. So I'm going to take A, the equation A, and it's got a y value of 3, so I'm going to subtract away 3 times b to get my first equation. Let me write that one out because I'll be multiplying by a constant. So I'm going to take my a value, that'll just come down, And underneath it, I'm going to have 3 times b. So b. Alright, and multiplying everything by a negative 3. So this becomes positive 9. This one becomes a negative 3. And then this one will become a negative 15. And can't forget about the other one. That becomes a positive 15. So with that, I will take and add them together. When I do that, I'll be left with 4x. My y's will cancel out. Minus, so 6 minus 15 should be negative 9. Beautiful. Negative 9z will be equal to 4 plus 5, 19. So we've got our new equation that we're going to use. So I'm going to box it so I know that that one's important. Next, what I want to do, so I just did 8 minus 3 times b. Next one I want to get rid of is I'm going to look at b and c, and I want to get rid of the y's again. So I'm going to take c and subtract away 2 times b. And again, I'll just copy and paste that so you can see it. So c will come as it is. And underneath it, we want to take b again. And we want to multiply it by a negative 2. So this will become a positive 6. This will become a negative 2. This one will become a negative 10. And this one becomes a positive 10. Alright. So we'll go ahead and add them together. Underneath, we'll be left with 2x. Y's will go away. Minus 9z equals 23. My new equation, so I'm going to take the opportunity to box it up. Alright, so we just went from 3 equations with 3 variables. These guys up here are originals. Now we've got 2 equations with 2 variables. So I'm going to take and line those guys up. And I now want to solve this system here. Worked out pretty nice that our z values are both 9. The only difference is one is positive, or they're both negative, and I want to make one of them positive. So this one's 19. I think what I want to do is I'm going to make the bottom one multiplied by negative 1. So it'll become negative, positive, negative. And then I'll go ahead and solve this system. So when I add those together, I'm left with 2x equals 19 minus 23 is negative 4. Therefore, x will be equal to a negative 2. So that's one of them, one of my 3. Alright. So now that I know what my x is, I can take one of these 2 equations, plug in my x value, and solve for z. Doesn't matter which one, I'll just take the top one. So I'm literally just going to bring it over here, plug in a negative 2 for z, and solve. When I do that, I'll get that negative 8 minus 9z equals 19. So we'll take and add 8 to both sides. 19 plus 8 then will be 27. Negative 9 times z equals 27. So therefore, z will equal negative 3. So we know 2 of our 3 variables, so we can take what we know and plug it into one of them at the top. So the easiest one looks like will be this bottom one. And I'm going to solve it in this space. Oh no. Plug in my x, -2. Plug in my z, -3. And then we'll go ahead, combine like terms, 8, simplify then combine, plus 2y, -3, equals 13. So 8 minus 3 is 5, 5 plus 2y equals 13. Subtract 5 from both sides, 13 minus 5 should be 8. So we're left with 2y equals 8. Therefore, y will equal 4. Alright, so now you have solved for x, y, and z. And that is complete. Hopefully these skills are going well. Again, I really think the 3 keys to understanding them is knowing what you're doing, being organized, and then checking your work if you've got time. I didn't want to check my work because we're already at 21 minutes. Hope this has been helpful, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.